Greetings, my fellow adventurers. It's Alara. Welcome back to our cozy sanctuary, where the magical corridors of Hogwarts and the bravery of those who stand against the darkness come alive in tales of courage, resistance, and unwavering hope. Tonight, we'll step into the world of the Order of the Phoenix as they face a mission filled with danger, secrecy, and the relentless fight for justice. So, find your coziest spot. Let the enchantment of the wizarding world and the echoes of Phoenix song ignite your imagination, and prepare to be carried away on a tale of loyalty, perilous missions, and the triumph of light over shadow. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and which magical adventures you'd love to hear next. Let's begin. The morning sun barely pierced the heavy gray clouds that hung over the rooftops of London. The city, bustling with its usual activity, seemed oblivious to the shadows of war creeping into its corners. In a modest, hidden townhouse in the heart of the city, a small group of wizards and witches sat around a worn wooden table. The room was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from a flickering lantern and the soft glow of a crackling fire. "This can't continue," said Albus Dumbledore, his voice calm yet firm. His piercing blue eyes scanned the room, pausing momentarily on each face. "Voldemort's forces are growing stronger, and the Ministry is too blind to see the storm gathering." The room was silent, the weight of Dumbledore's words pressing down on everyone present. Among them were faces that would one day become synonymous with resistance. Minerva McGonagall, Elphias Doge, and a younger, less grizzled Alastair Moody. The atmosphere was tense, each of them grappling with the enormity of the task before them. "It's not just about the Ministry's blindness," Moody said, his gruff voice breaking the silence. "It's their inaction. They've been compromised, infiltrated. We can't rely on them to fight this battle." Elphias Doge nodded in agreement. "The question is, how do we fight back? We're scattered, disorganized. Voldemort's Death Eaters have the upper hand. That's why we're here," Dumbledore said, his voice steady. "To change that." The meeting had been called in secret, a gathering of those brave enough to defy the Dark Lord and willing to risk everything for the light. It was during these early days that the seeds of the Order of the Phoenix were sown. Dumbledore, with his unmatched wisdom and natural leadership, had recognized the need for an organized resistance, but even he knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril. "We need more than courage," McGonagall said, her Scottish accent sharp with determination. "We need a plan." Dumbledore nodded. "And we shall have one. But first, we must identify those we can trust, those who share our cause. This will not be a battle fought by sheer numbers, but by the strength of our convictions and the bonds we forge." He reached into his robes and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. Placing it on the table, he opened the lid to reveal a golden medallion engraved with a phoenix in mid-flight. The room seemed to brighten slightly as the medallion caught the light. "This," Dumbledore said, holding up the medallion, "will be our symbol. A phoenix rises from its ashes, reborn and stronger than before. So shall we." The group exchanged glances, the significance of the moment sinking in. The medallion was passed around, each person holding it briefly before returning it to the box. When it came to Moody, he held it up, his magical eye fixed on the shimmering gold. "Fitting," he muttered. "We'll need to rise from the ashes if we're going to take on Voldemort." The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Dumbledore and his fledgling order worked tirelessly, reaching out to potential allies, gathering intelligence, and building a network of safe houses and communication channels. The group remained small at first, their numbers limited to those they trusted implicitly. Every new member was carefully vetted, their loyalty tested before they were allowed into the fold. It was during this time that the first missions were undertaken, small acts of defiance designed to disrupt Voldemort's plans and protect those who could not protect themselves. These early victories, though minor, were critical in building the group's confidence and proving that resistance was possible. One such mission involved retrieving a cache of cursed artifacts that Voldemort's followers had hidden in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The mission was led by Moody, with McGonagall and Doge accompanying him. It was a tense and dangerous operation, but they succeeded in securing the artifacts and destroying them before they could be used to harm innocents. "We're making a difference," McGonagall said as they regrouped at headquarters, her voice filled with quiet pride. "Small steps," Moody replied, his expression grim. "But every step counts." As the Order began to take shape, the bonds between its members grew stronger. They were not just comrades in arms. They were a family, united by a shared purpose, and the understanding that they might not all survive the fight ahead. One evening, as the group gathered for another meeting, Dumbledore addressed them with a rare smile. "You have all done extraordinary work," he said, "but this is only the beginning. The road ahead will be long and difficult, and we will face losses. But together, I believe we can overcome anything." The room was filled with a sense of quiet determination. Each member knew the risks they faced, but they also knew that they were fighting for something far greater than themselves. It was during this meeting that the Order's name was officially chosen. As they discussed the Phoenix Medallion and what it represented, McGonagall suggested, "The Order of the Phoenix. It embodies everything we stand for: resilience, rebirth, and the light that cannot be extinguished." The name was met with unanimous approval, and from that moment on, they were no longer just a group of individuals fighting in the shadows. They were the Order of the Phoenix, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The Order's work continued in earnest. Their missions grew bolder, their network expanded, and their resolve deepened. But even as they celebrated their victories, they knew that the battle was far from over. Voldemort's power was growing, and the Order would soon face challenges that would test their strength and unity to the limit. In the flickering light of the headquarters fireplace, Dumbledore stood alone, his gaze distant as he contemplated the future. The Phoenix Medallion rested in his hand, its golden surface warm to the touch. "We are ready," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "Let the fire burn brighter." The night was a tapestry of ink-black sky and scattered stars, their pale glow barely piercing the dense clouds that hung low over the countryside. In the distance, the silhouette of an old, crumbling manor rose like a specter, its once grand spires now jagged and broken against the horizon. The air carried a chill that seemed to seep into the bones. mingling with the unmistakable aura of foreboding. Mundungus Fletcher adjusted his hat nervously, his wiry frame hidden beneath a tattered cloak. "I still say this is a bad idea," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the soft rustle of leaves in the night breeze. "We've heard, dung," snapped Emmeline Vance, her emerald eyes sharp beneath the hood of her cloak. "But the Order doesn't back out of missions just because they're dangerous." Beside her, Alistair Mad-Eye Moody grunted in agreement, his magical eye swiveling unnervingly in its socket, scanning the area around them. "Constant vigilance," he barked in a low tone, his voice gravelly. "If they're hiding something here, we'll find it. And if it's a trap, well," he patted the wand at his side with a grim smile, "we'll handle it." Behind them, Nymphadora Tonks pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her hair, a vibrant shade of violet tonight, peeking out from beneath her hood. "Can we just get this over with? Creeping around creepy manors in the dead of night isn't exactly my idea of fun." The group of four stood at the edge of the overgrown estate, the path before them choked with weeds and the remnants of a rusted iron gate. Their target was the manor, a long-abandoned property that the Order had received intelligence about. Rumors swirled of Death Eater activity, whispers of secret meetings, and the storage of dark artifacts. Whatever Voldemort's followers were planning here, the Order of the Phoenix intended to stop it. "Let's move," Moody growled, leading the way up the path. His wooden leg thudded softly against the ground, the sound muffled by the thick layer of moss that had grown over the stones. The manor loomed larger as they approached, its shattered windows like dark eyes watching their every move. Vines crawled up the walls, their twisted forms adding to the building's sinister air. Fletcher lingered at the back of the group, his nervous muttering continuing under his breath. "Dung," Emmeline hissed, turning back to glare at him. "If you're going to keep complaining, at least do it quietly." "Easy for you to say," Fletcher grumbled. "You're not the one who's going to get hexed first." Tonks stifled a laugh, earning a glare from Moody. "Quiet, all of you," the old Auror snapped. "We're here for a reason." Reaching the manor's entrance, they paused. The massive wooden door was ajar, its hinges rusted but intact. Moody raised a hand, signaling them to stop, his magical eye swiveling rapidly. "Wards," he muttered after a moment. "Old ones, but powerful. Whoever set these knew what they were doing." "Can you break them?" Emmeline asked, her wand already in hand. Moody nodded curtly. "Give me a minute." As the others kept watch, Moody began to work. His wand traced intricate patterns in the air, his lips moving in a near-silent incantation. The air around them seemed to thrum with energy, the wards resisting before finally giving way with a faint shimmer. "Done," Moody said, stepping back. "Let's go. Wands out." They entered cautiously, their footsteps echoing on the stone floor. The interior of the manor was as decayed as its exterior, with broken furniture and tattered curtains scattered about. Dust hung in the air, catching the faint light from their wands. "Split up," Moody ordered. "Tonks, you're with me. Vance, take Fletcher and check the west wing. Be quick and don't engage unless you have to." The group separated, moving silently through the manor. Emmeline led Fletcher through a dark corridor, her wand light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grew colder the deeper they went, and Fletcher shivered despite himself. "You ever wonder why we do this?" Fletcher muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Risking our necks for a bunch of people who don't even know we exist? Emmeline didn't look back, because someone has to. Meanwhile, Moody and Tonks moved through the east wing, their progress slow but steady. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath their feet. Moody's magical eye darted around constantly, scanning for any signs of danger. Anything? Tonks whispered. Not yet, Moody replied, his voice low. But I don't like this. It's too quiet. They reached a door at the end of the hall, its surface marked with strange, jagged runes. Moody frowned, his hand tightening around his wand. Stay back, he warned, stepping forward to inspect it. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the hallway, sending a chill down their spines. Tonks turned, her wand raised, just as a massive, shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. It lunged at them with a snarl, its eyes glowing red. Protego! Tonks shouted, casting a shield charm just in time. The creature slammed into it, snarling in frustration. Moody wasted no time. Stupefy! He bellowed, his spell hitting the creature squarely. It stumbled, but didn't fall, its form twisting and shifting as if made of smoke. What is that thing? Tonks gasped, her wand trembling slightly. Dark magic, Moody growled. Stay sharp. In the west wing, Emmeline and Fletcher encountered their own challenges. A faint, humming sound drew them to a locked room, its door reinforced with iron bands. Emmeline cast an unlocking charm, and the door creaked open to reveal a small chamber filled with shelves of strange objects, dark artifacts pulsing with malevolent energy. This is it, Emmeline said, her voice grim. Start cataloging. We'll need to bring some of this back to headquarters. Fletcher hesitated, his eyes darting nervously around the room. You touch it, he muttered. I'm not getting cursed. Emmeline rolled her eyes, but began inspecting the artifacts, her wand hovering over each one to detect magical signatures. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled, and a distant roar echoed through the manor. What the bloody hell was that? Fletcher yelped. Trouble, Emmeline said, her grip tightening on her wand. Come on, we need to find the others. The two groups converged in the main hall, their faces tense. The growling creature had vanished, but the air was thick with unease. Find anything? Moody demanded. Plenty, Emmeline replied, gesturing to the artifacts they had managed to collect. But this place isn't safe. We need to leave. Before they could move, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hall. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked and hooded, their presence radiating menace. Going somewhere? The figure hissed, their voice cold and mocking. The figure stood in the darkness like a shadow, yet the aura of energy they exuded was so intense that the air in the room felt suffocating. We know who you are, Moody said, his wand steady. And we know what you're doing. But this will be your end. The figure chuckled quietly. You think the phoenix rises from its ashes? Even ashes are doomed to disappear in the darkness. With those words, the figure raised their wand, and the room's shadows surged, transforming into a dark wave that hurtled toward the order. Protego! Moody shouted, conjuring a protective shield to deflect the attack. But the figure's energy was so powerful, that the shield began to crack under the strain. Kingsley quickly countered. "Stupefy!" he yelled, sending a spell hurtling toward the figure's dark barrier. Instead of retreating, the figure intensified their attack. "Do you really think you can stop me?" they sneered, creating a vortex of swirling darkness in the center of the room. "That vortex is an energy siphon," Emmeline said urgently, her face pale. "If we don't stop it, it'll consume us." Tonks moved swiftly to the other side of the room. "I'll distract them," she said, her hair turning a vivid shade of purple. She cast a series of bright, dazzling light spells to draw the figure's attention. The figure hesitated for a moment, and Moody seized the opportunity. "Emmeline, check the runes," Moody barked. "That energy might be coming from there." Emmeline moved toward the stone altars behind the figure. The altars were inscribed with glowing dark runes that pulsed with energy. "These runes are feeding the vortex," she said. "If I can break them, their power will weaken." The figure noticed her movement and immediately turned toward her. "You will not succeed," they bellowed, sending shadows hurtling toward Emmeline. Kingsley stepped in between them. "I'll protect her," he shouted, using his wand to deflect the shadows. "We need more time," Tonks yelled, launching a series of spells to keep the figure occupied. "Stupefy! Expelliarmus!" But the figure countered with a wave of dark energy, neutralizing her attacks. Emmeline managed to disrupt one of the runes. As the light from the runes dimmed, the figure's power visibly weakened, but they fought back with fury, their voice echoing through the room. "You'll pay for this!" they roared, unleashing waves of darkness that filled the room. Moody didn't hesitate. He moved toward the figure with determination. "Your end has come," he said coldly. Raising his wand, he cast a powerful spell. "Reducto!" The spell hit the figure, shattering their dark barrier and sending them reeling backward. At the same time, Emmeline broke the final rune. The altar began to darken, and the figure let out a scream of rage and despair. "No! This isn't over!" the figure shouted. Their form dissolved into a dark mist and vanished into the air. The shadows disappeared completely, and the room fell into silence. The members of the Order took a deep breath, their faces weary but resolute. "We did it," Kingsley said quietly. "This was just one battle," Moody replied, "but it's a battle we've won." As Emmeline examined the remnants of the altar, she said, "These artifacts must be destroyed completely. Voldemort can't use them again." "Don't worry," Moody assured her. "Dumbledore will secure them." As the Order left the mansion, the first light of dawn began to break through the horizon. This victory had renewed their courage, but they all knew the war was far from over. Voldemort's shadows continued to loom over the world, but the Order of the Phoenix, as always, was ready to fight back against the darkness. The sun was just beginning to rise as the members of the Order of the Phoenix arrived back at Grimmauld Place. Exhausted and battle-worn, they filed into the kitchen, where the faint aroma of tea and toast lingered in the air. The warm, familiar hum of the enchanted house was a stark contrast to the dark energy of the mansion they had just left behind. Dumbledore stood by the fireplace, his piercing blue eyes fixed on the group as they entered. His expression was calm, but serious, the kind of look that always held an unspoken question. He gestured toward the table, inviting them to sit. "Welcome back," he said softly. I trust the mission was eventful. Moody, still limping slightly from a shadow-induced injury, was the first to speak. Eventful is an understatement, he growled, dropping into a chair. We found what Voldemort's been up to. Dark artifacts, channels of power, and a bloody lot of traps to guard them. Kingsley nodded in agreement, placing his wand on the table. The mansion was crawling with dark magic. We destroyed the channel, but it was no easy task. The runes were ancient, deeply connected to the artifacts. And there was a guardian, an incredibly powerful one. A guardian? Dumbledore's eyebrows raised slightly. Tell me more. Emmeline leaned forward, her face still pale from the battle. It was unlike anything we've encountered before, Professor. This guardian wasn't human. It seemed to be made of pure dark energy, feeding directly off the artifacts in the room. Breaking the runes weakened it, but it put up a fight until the very end. Tonks, who was nursing a singed arm, added, The Guardians seemed to know our every move. It wasn't just protecting the artifacts. It was trying to draw us into the dark magic itself. If we hadn't acted quickly, we might not have made it out. Dumbledore listened intently, his fingers steepled in thought. And the artifacts themselves? He asked. Were you able to recover any of them? We destroyed the most dangerous one, a channeling orb, Kingsley explained. It was feeding power directly into Voldemort's forces. But there were fragments left behind, and we weren't able to retrieve everything. The place was too unstable by the end. Moody's magical eye whirred in its socket. We'll need to send another team to secure what's left. We can't leave anything for the Death Eaters to recover. Dumbledore nodded, his expression grave. You've done well, he said. But this mission has revealed much about Voldemort's plans. He's no longer just gathering followers. He's building something. These artifacts are more than tools of power. They're part of a larger design. The room fell silent as his words sank in. Each member of the Order knew the implications. Voldemort's moves were becoming more calculated, more strategic. This wasn't just a fight against individual threats. It was a war against an interconnected web of dark magic. We'll need to act swiftly, Dumbledore continued. The destruction of the channel has delayed his plans, but it hasn't stopped them. Our focus now must be on uncovering the locations of the other artifacts and disrupting his network. How do we do that? Tonks asked, her voice steady despite the weariness in her eyes. Severus, Dumbledore said simply, turning his gaze toward the empty fireplace. His position within Voldemort's ranks will be crucial. He's already provided us with valuable intelligence, and I believe he can guide us toward the next target. Moody snorted. If he's not playing both sides. Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. We must trust him, Alistair. Severus has risked much to ensure the safety of this order. Without his information, tonight's mission would not have been possible. As the discussion shifted to logistics, who would go where, what resources were needed, Emmeline spoke up. Professor, what about rallying more allies? The Death Eaters are growing in number. We can't keep fighting them with so few. Dumbledore smiled faintly, though his eyes remained serious. You are right, Emmeline. We will need more hands, more wands. I've already reached out to several key individuals, former students, trusted allies, and there's hope yet among the younger generation. Harry, Ron, and Hermione have shown remarkable bravery. Their role will only grow as this war progresses. Tonks leaned back in her chair, her hair now a muted brown, reflecting her exhaustion. And what about us? What's next for this team? Dumbledore's gaze swept over the group, a mixture of pride and solemnity in his expression. You will rest, he said firmly. Tonight, you've earned it. But tomorrow, we move forward. There is much to do, and Voldemort will not wait. As the meeting concluded, the members of the Order lingered for a moment, their fatigue mingling with a renewed sense of purpose. The war ahead was daunting, but they had faced the darkness before, and they would do so again. Moody was the first to stand. I'll start preparing the next reconnaissance mission, he said gruffly. No time to waste. Kingsley clapped a hand on his shoulder. You'll waste plenty of time if you collapse from exhaustion, he said with a rare smile. Rest first, Alistair. As the group dispersed, Dumbledore remained by the fireplace, his gaze fixed on the glowing embers. In the flickering light, the phoenix emblem above the mantel seemed to shimmer with life, a symbol of resilience, of rising from the ashes. Albus? Emmeline's voice broke the silence. He turned to her. Do you think we can win this? Dumbledore's smile was faint but steady. I do, he said, because in the darkest of times, it is not the strength of our enemy that defines us, but the light we choose to carry. And together, we carry enough to illuminate the way forward. As the first rays of dawn broke through the windows of Grimmauld Place, the Order of the Phoenix stood ready once more. Tired, bruised, but unbroken, the fight was far from over, but in the hearts of those who stood together, there burned a flame that even the darkest magic could not extinguish. As the tale of the Order of the Phoenix and their unwavering fight against the forces of darkness draws to a close, let this story remind us of the bravery found in standing on it and the courage to face the shadows in the pursuit of hope and justice. Remember, my fellow adventurers, that in the darkest of times, it is the bonds we forge and the light we carry that illuminate the way forward. Thank you for joining me tonight. Until next time, may your dreams be filled with the enchantment of Hogwarts, the song of the Phoenix, and the promise of new magical adventures waiting to unfold. Good night.